swear these types of videos are like all in one, like interesting, terrifying, yet like cool in a sense. And obviously not cool, but it's just like, you know what I mean? Like 7 disturbing disappearances that make no sense. You literally just disappear into thin air. That's kind of horrifying. Also kind of interesting because it's kind of like a mysterious thing. So it's like, what the fuck happened? Like someone just doesn't just disappear. Like, you know what I mean? Welcome back to React. I'm back with a Mr. Dimer video for you guys today. Happy Friday. Once again, 7 what the fuck? 7 disturbing disappearances that make no sense. There you go, Damian. Good job. You can speak after all. Good job. Starting. You're gonna hear talking downstairs. Just ignore that. But yeah, Mr. Dimer video, 7 disturbing disappearances that make no sense at all. So we're gonna see what happens in this video. I can just imagine it's gonna be interesting, but yeah, like who the hell just disappears into thin air? Like someone obviously has to have murdered you or something, or you know what I mean? Like obviously kidnapped you. Like it just doesn't. You can't just disappear into thin air. 22 minutes, 7 disappearances. Let's go.
In June 2014, a 28-year-old German man named Lars Matank traveled to Varna, Bulgaria with a group of friends. They were on vacation, enjoying the beach town, the cheap drinks, and the nightlife.
Okay.
Lars was by all accounts a calm, quiet guy. He wasn't someone known to get into fights or cause trouble. But while out one night at a bar, Lars reportedly got into an argument with a group of local men, possibly over a football rivalry. The fight left him with a ruptured eardrum, which meant he couldn't fly home with his friends. The doctor told him he needed to stay behind and let it heal. His friends offered to stay with him, but Lars insisted they return to Germany without him.
Aw, that's kind of sad. Like, just like, obviously it's great the friends offer to stay. Like those are true friends right there for sure. Because I feel like some friends would have been like, okay, bye, have fun. Like, you know what I mean? So.
He claimed he'd be fine. He just needed a few days to rest. Alone in Bulgaria, Lars checked into a cheap hotel near the airport. What happened over the next few days remains one of Europe's most chilling disappearances.
Damn.
Lars began acting strangely. He called his mother several times, sounding panicked. He told her to cancel his credit cards. He said people were following him. At one point, he left the hotel in the middle of the night, claiming he was being watched by 4 mysterious men. He even texted his mom asking what the side effects of an antibiotic he'd been prescribed were. His behavior kept escalating. The hotel staff described him as nervous, pacing, and constantly checking the windows. Then,
I don't think medication does that to you though, does it? Especially like if it's just like antibiotics.
on July 8th, the day he was scheduled to fly home, Lars arrived at Varna Airport, and things took a dramatic turn. Surveillance footage from the airport shows him walking into the terminal calmly at first, but within minutes, he appears agitated. He's seen speaking to a staff member, then backing away nervously. Suddenly, without any visible trigger, Lars sprints through the terminal, dashes through the automatic doors, and runs at full speed across the airport parking lot, leaving behind his luggage, passport, and all of his belongings. The last known footage of him shows him vanishing into the trees near a construction site. No one has seen him since. His disappearance has become a breeding ground for theories. Some believe he had a psychotic break, potentially brought on by a reaction to an antibiotic he was taking, or a latent mental illness triggered by stress. Others are convinced something more sinister was happening, that Lars was genuinely being followed or targeted, and whatever he encountered in those final moments was terrifying enough to make him run into the wilderness, barefoot and defenseless. There were alleged sightings in Eastern Europe for years after, but nothing ever confirmed. The strangest part is that his mother insists that Lars was not mentally ill. She believes he was in danger, that he may have stumbled upon something he shouldn't have, or gotten involved in something darker than he realized.
So the moral of this story just seems like don't fight with anybody, I guess, especially over football. Come on now. Like I get it, you know, like it's like a rivalry, that's normal, but you don't get into a fist fight over it. So what I think, just based on this, the 2 minutes and 47 seconds so far, I feel like maybe obviously there was a fight between the people. He obviously thinks that the people are following him after they beat him up or something. I don't see why he would just go to the airport on the day that he's supposed to leave, and then he just runs out of the airport, leaves everything. Like maybe he saw them there. I don't know. Maybe he was gonna follow. Maybe he thought that they were gonna follow him back or something. Like maybe he thought that he was gonna go on the plane. Then he saw all 4 of them or something, and he was like, "Oh fuck, no, I'm dipping." So that's why he booted it out of there. Maybe that's all I can really think of, right? maybe he saw like his attacker, so he's like, oh hell no. But he could have just gone to like the airport security, be like, yeah, I think these people are following me. Like, obviously that may not be the case, but like, if they're going to the same place that you're going to, it's kind of like, oh, that's kind of sus. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think so. Maybe he like ran away into the forest, and then maybe he got killed. Maybe someone killed him after all. Like, obviously that was 11 years ago. I'm assuming he passed away by now, which is unfortunate. But do you guys think that he's still out there somewhere alive? Like, it's been 11 years. That was June 2014, so that was over 11 years ago. So very unlikely. I hope he's still out there somewhere, but I mean, because he was, what, 25 or something? So that's horrible. I hope he's okay, but I mean, obviously, everything probably suggests that he's not. But I don't think it was the psychotic episode. I don't think antibiotics caused that. Like, there's differences between medications and antibiotics. Medication, I consider like, for like a mental illness, like medication. Obviously, that's not necessarily true, but like what I consider medication is like things for depression, anxiety, like psychosis. That's what I consider medication. I don't consider an antibiotic. That is medicine, yes, but I consider them different. Like, but I don't know why. I consider antibiotics like stuff like, let's say you're sick with strep throat. You get an antibiotic. That's not going to cause you to go like mentally insane. The medication for like pills and for like anxiety and stuff like that, that wouldn't cause you to go insane either, right? I would know I'm not on them, but that wouldn't cause that, right? I don't know. What do I know? Nothing apparently, but yeah, that's just kind of my little take on that. But that's kind of what I mean between antibiotics and medicine. It's basically the same thing, just a different word for it. But I consider antibiotics like something that you're sick with, like an infection, whereas medication is like for like mental illness. Again, it's just a different word I think for it, but that's always kind of what I use to like separate it. Why? I don't know. That's just what I've done.
The image of him running, wide-eyed and desperate, has been viewed millions of times online, yet no one knows what scared him that badly.
Right.
No one knows where he went.
Damn.
In 1912, in the small town of Opelousas, Louisiana, 4-year-old Bobby Dunbar disappeared while on a fishing trip with his family near Swayze Lake. His parents claimed he vanished sometime during the day, possibly while wandering near the water. A massive search was launched immediately. Hundreds of volunteers scoured the area, dragging the lake, searching the woods, and even setting off dynamite underwater in case his body was stuck in the lake bed. But Bobby was gone. The town was devastated. For 8 months, his disappearance became a local obsession. Then, in early 1913, a boy matching Bobby's description was found traveling with a man named William Walters, a traveling handyman in Mississippi. Walters claimed the boy was the son of Julia Anderson, a woman who had entrusted the child to his care, but the Dunbars were convinced the boy was Bobby. Walters was arrested for kidnapping. The authorities arranged for a reunion between the boy and Bobby's mother. At first, the boy didn't recognize her. Witnesses later claimed she hesitated, unsure if the boy was actually hers. But after spending a few days with him, she announced to the press and the police that he was, in fact, her son. Case closed, the newspaper said. Bobby Dunbar had been found, Walters was sentenced to prison, the boy was returned to the Dunbar family and raised as their own.
Okay, so what happened after that? I guess we're gonna find out, but how do you know if that's your son? Like, I don't know if you're my son. Like, wouldn't you be able to tell if that's your kid? Unless they have like a doppelganger, and then you're kind of like, I don't know, this looks just like my son, but I don't think it's him. I don't know, who knows?
But there was a problem. Julia Anderson, the woman who had entrusted the boy to Walters, showed up. She insisted that was her son, Bruce, and that the Dunbars had taken him. She had no money, no lawyer, and no support. When the courts ruled in favor of the Dunbars, she lost custody forever. She returned to Mississippi heartbroken, labeled a liar and an unfit mother by the press. For decades, Bobby Dunbar lived under that name, unaware of any of this. But in the early 2000s, Bobby's grandson began investigating the family's history. Something didn't sit right. Eventually, the family agreed to a DNA test comparing Bobby's descendants to those of the Dunbars. The results shattered a century of belief. The boy who had grown up as Bobby Dunbar was not biologically related to the Dunbars.
Wow.
He was Bruce Anderson. Julia Anderson had been telling the truth all along, which means the real Bobby Dunbar was never found. To this day, no one knows what actually happened to him, whether he drowned, was abducted, or suffered some unknown fate. His case remains officially unresolved. Meanwhile, an innocent man was imprisoned, and another family raised a child who wasn't theirs.
Damn.
Because the truth was too painful, and the need for closure outweighed the facts.
Can you imagine that though? Like, can you imagine like raising a son that isn't even yours? Like, you think it's yours, but it's not, and someone goes to jail for kidnapping someone that they didn't actually even kidnap? That's insane.
In 1928, 9-year-old Walter Collins disappeared from his home in Los Angeles.
Sorry, how old?
9-year-old Walter
Nine,
Collins
yeah.
disappeared from his home in Los Angeles. His mother, Christine Collins, had given him a few coins to go see a movie while she was working. He never came home. Christine went to the police, who launched a search. His case quickly made headlines. This was during a time of rising fears about crime and child abductions, and public pressure on the LAPD was intense.
So you're telling me this was during a time where crime and stuff was up, and then the mom let her son, 9-year-old son, go somewhere by himself. 9. Even when I was like 11 or 12, I didn't want to walk alone to school. I really did not. I remember my mom like watching me walk up the street, basically to like a main road, and then I would wave whenever I was like good, and then I know one time my friend offered to give me a ride to school. It was like 4 streets away. It wasn't that big. It was like a 10-minute walk. It was fine. But it's just the fact that like I was so nervous walking up my street alone. I was always just like, yeah, Mom, can you watch me walking up the street just to make sure no one like kidnaps me? I was like, I think I was like, I don't know if I was 10 or 11. But I don't know. I definitely don't think a 9-year-old should go to the movies himself. I don't care when it was. That shouldn't be the case.
For 5 months, Christine kept the search alive.
Damn.
She printed flyers, organized searches, gave interviews. Then, in August, police in Illinois picked up a boy who claimed to be Walter. He was brought to Los Angeles to be reunited with Christine in front of reporters. But as the cameras flashed and police beamed with pride, thinking they had solved the case, when Christine saw the boy, she said, "That's not my son."
Damn.
The police told her she was wrong. They insisted he had changed from the trauma. They encouraged her to take him home on a trial basis. Christine reluctantly agreed, likely pressured by the public scene. But after just 3 weeks, she returned to the LAPD and again said, "This is not my son." This time, the police had her committed to a psychiatric hospital, claiming she was hysterical and refusing to accept reality.
Damn.
Meanwhile, the boy admitted that he wasn't Walter.
See, what the hell? Why the hell did he claim he was Walter then? I don't understand. What the hell? Can't imagine someone saying, yeah, I'm your son. No, you're not. And then the police are like, okay, you know what? Like, you know what, bitch? You're like, oh, like you're crazy. Go to the psychiatric hospital. What? This ain't my son.
His real name was Arthur Hutchins, a runaway who had been pretending to be Walter Collins to get a free trip to California. He thought it might help him to meet his favorite actors.
Wow.
So that meant the police had publicly reunited a grieving mother with a random child,
Damn.
then punished her when she didn't go along with the lie.
Yeah, what
That
the
should
hell?
have been the end of the story, but it gets darker. Around the same time, a Canadian man named Gordon Northcott was arrested for a string of murders on a chicken farm in Wineville, California. He had lured young boys to his property, imprisoned them, and eventually killed them. When authorities raided the farm, they found evidence linking Northcott to multiple victims. One of those victims, they believed, was Walter Collins. Christine pleaded for answers, but Northcott never gave a clear confession. He was convicted for other murders, but the fate of Walter Collins remained unresolved. Christine spent the rest of her life trying to find out what happened. She never gave up, and the city of Los Angeles never formally apologized for what they did to her, for locking her away when she refused to accept a lie.
Right.
The story later inspired the film Changeling with Angelina Jolie, but the real horror is how it actually happened. A grieving mother gaslit by the system, a lost child exploited for headlines, and a police force more interested in good press than truth.
That is really fucked up. Like, bro, like, again, like a mom knows her son, a father knows his son. If they say it's not your kid, if it's not their kid, then it's probably not their kid. And
In August
punishing
of
her?
2008, a 24-year-old Canadian woman named Kayla Reed vanished from a small town in British Columbia.
Damn.
She had recently moved back in with her parents.
I haven't heard a lot of stories like Canadian stories about people missing. It's mainly the U.S. It makes sense. There's like millions more people there, but yeah, I haven't heard of a lot. I know there's like 2 missing kids from BC, like Nova Scotia, BC. Like they've been missing for like 2, 3 months now. And they're still missing. Like they don't know where they are. So, but okay. Well,
In August of 2008, a 24-year-old Canadian woman named Kayla Reed vanished from a small town in British Columbia. She had recently moved back in with her parents after going through a rough breakup and was trying to start over.
okay.
One evening, she told her mother she was going to meet a friend at a coffee shop nearby. She left around 7:30 p.m., wearing a light hoodie and jeans, carrying her phone but no purse. She never showed up for that meeting. Her phone went dark less than an hour later. What followed was an immediate and massive local search. Flyers went up and volunteers swarmed the forested areas around town. Search dogs found nothing, and there was no sign of foul play. No
Oh.
dropped phone, no torn clothing, no surveillance footage.
I don't get it. Again, like how does someone just disappear like that? Like I don't understand how someone just vanishes like that. Like that's actually terrifying. Like imagine just going to work, imagine just going to be your friend, and then you just disappear.
It seemed Kayla had completely vanished. As expected, her parents were devastated. Kayla was described as responsible and grounded, not the kind of person to run off without telling anyone.
Right.
Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Eventually, the case went cold. But then, a full year later, something happened. Kayla showed up. In the early morning hours of July 5th, 2009, she walked into a hospital nearly 200 miles from where she disappeared.
Damn.
She was disoriented, dehydrated, and barefoot. She was also noticeably thinner, sunburned, and wearing clothes that didn't belong to her.
Is it actually her though, or is it someone that is pretending to be her, or some shit like that?
She refused to speak to doctors. She simply wrote her name down on a piece of paper. The hospital staff called police, and after fingerprint confirmation, it was officially her.
Wow.
She had been missing for 11 months. Her parents, of course, rushed to see her, but even then, Kayla said almost nothing. She stared at them blankly, occasionally smiling, but she didn't hug them.
What?
When they asked where she had been, she said only, "I was in the dark. I was safe, but it wasn't me."
What?
Authorities were baffled. She had no visible injuries or signs of abuse. Toxicology came back clean. She had no head trauma, no signs of having been drugged long term, no tattoos or branding or anything that would suggest organized abduction.
What?
She spent a week in the hospital under psychiatric observation, and then she was quietly released to her family. No charges were filed and no statements were ever made. Kayla never spoke publicly about where she had been. She deleted all her social media accounts and moved away within a year. Reporters tried to follow up, but her family refused all interviews.
Damn.
The case was officially closed, a missing person who returned, but no one ever got the answers they were looking for. Just a young woman who came back from somewhere completely changed. She wasn't hurt or injured, but she was different. One nurse from the hospital said that in her last shift before Kayla was discharged, the girl looked her dead in the eyes and whispered, "Don't go into the woods alone. They find you there."
Oh my god.
No one knows what she meant, but no one who worked that case ever forgot it.
Yeah, that's definitely like I would.
In October 2017, in the city of Santa Rosa, California, a 15-year-old high school student named Connor Hastings disappeared while walking
Hastings or Hastings?
home from school. He took the same route named Connor Hastings disappeared while walking home from school.
That's horrifying.
He took the same route every day, a suburban street surrounded by homes and parks. But one afternoon, he didn't show up. His mom called him, but there was no answer. When she checked with friends, no one had seen him since he left school.
Damn.
By 7 p.m., police were notified, and a search began immediately. His backpack was found a day later, dumped behind a dumpster a few blocks from his usual route, but his phone was gone.
That's not
For
good.
weeks, the case dominated local headlines. Police dogs tracked a scent trail that ended suddenly at the edge of a wooded trail, where it seemed to just stop. It was strange because no tire tracks were left behind, and there were 0 witnesses. When detectives questioned classmates, rumors began spreading. Some kids claimed Connor had been acting paranoid in the days just before he went missing, like he was jumping at noises and asking people if they'd seen the man in the red jacket. One friend said Connor had recently asked about how to tell if you're being watched. The trail went cold, but 5 minutes later, in March of 2018, Connor returned.
5 minutes later or 5 months later?
Or rather, he was found. A 911 call came in from a payphone, one of the few still operating in the area, and The caller reported a teenage boy sitting on a bench, unresponsive, outside a small-town library 60 miles away. When police found Connor, he was silent and staring ahead. His hair was much longer than when he'd last been seen, and his clothes were filthy. He had a spiral-bound notebook clutched in both hands, but it was completely blank. He wouldn't speak for over 24 hours. When his parents arrived, he hugged his mother tightly and then burst into tears. But even then, he said very little about where he had been. Over the next few days, he opened up only slightly. He claimed he had been taken by a group, but couldn't describe their faces. He said they kept him somewhere without clocks, somewhere cold. When police asked how he escaped, he said, "They just let me go. I think I passed their test."
What?
A month later, he gave one final statement before refusing to speak publicly again. He said, "There were others. I heard them. I wasn't the only one, but I might be the only one they gave back." The notebook he had been holding the night he was found remained empty. No one could get him to write anything in it, but on the final page in the bottom corner, written in shaky pen, were 4 words: "I was not alone." Police never identified any suspects. The FBI reviewed the case, but released no findings. Connor eventually changed schools and now lives under a different name. To this day, his case is officially solved because he came back, but nobody really believes that that's the end of the story.
Yeah, there has to be more to the story, right? It's not just like, oh yeah, he just disappeared and then, they took me, they gave me back, and now here I am. Who were they? Like, how many people? Guys, girls? Like, where were you? Like, describe where you were. Like, what the hell?
On the night of February 9th, 2004, a 21-year-old nursing student named Maura Murray vanished after a minor car crash on a remote stretch of Route 112 in Haverhill, New Hampshire. Nearly 2 decades later, no one knows where she went, what she was running from, or who might have been waiting for her.
What?
Earlier that day, Maura left her dorm at UMass Amherst after sending emails to her professors, telling them there had been a death in the family and she'd be gone for a few days. But no one in her family had died. In fact, no one in her life was planning to leave. She packed a bag, withdrew nearly all the money from her bank account, and bought a few items, including alcohol from a nearby store. Then she drove north into the White Mountains, alone and quietly, without a clear destination. At approximately 7:27 p.m., a local woman called 911 to report a car accident outside her house. A small black Saturn had crashed into a snowbank.
I'm sorry, what?
At approximately 7:27 p.m., a local woman called 911 to report a car accident outside her house. A small...
Okay, I don't know why I heard minor car accident, because I was like, bitch, that is not minor. Okay, never mind. That was just me tripping, or I don't know, short-circuiting or something.
black Saturn had crashed into a snowbank on a sharp turn. When police arrived 20 minutes later, they found the vehicle, but no sign of the driver. The car was locked and the windshield was cracked. Both airbags had deployed. A box of wine was spilled across the interior. The only thing missing was Maura. A bus driver who lived nearby had seen her just minutes before police arrived. He stopped and spoke to her through the window. She looked cold and shaken, but declined help. He drove off and called in the accident, but by the time the officers reached the scene, Maura had vanished. Not just walked away, vanished. Police dogs tracked her scent for about 100 yards up the road, then it stopped abruptly. No footprints in the woods or any belongings left behind. It was like someone picked her up in a car just out of view. Her phone and credit cards were never used again. The bottles of alcohol she had bought, some were gone and some remained in the car. There were no obvious signs of foul play, but nothing added up. She had no...
I feel like she drank and then crashed the car because she was drunk or something, and then I don't know, she just vanished. I have nothing to say for the disappearance, but I assume she crashed because she was drunk or something. Don't drink and drive. I swear to God, don't drink and drive.
No history of mental illness. Friends and family said she wasn't suicidal. She was planning for the future. And yet, she was gone. In the years that followed, her case became one of the most obsessively followed mysteries on the internet. Armchair detectives, forums, and podcasters picked apart every detail. Some believed she staged her disappearance to start a new life. Others believe she was abducted by a stranger or someone she arranged to meet. Then there are darker theories. A serial predator operating in the mountains, or a cover-up, but nothing concrete ever came, and her body was never found.
Damn.
Something obviously happened to Maura Murray that night, something that was likely deliberate. To this day, the forest around Route 112 still holds its secrets. And the most chilling part is if she was taken, whoever did it knew exactly what they were doing and never made a single mistake.
Right. Yeah, like I feel like there are some people that like just like make like I don't want to say perfect murder or perfect cover up, but it's like they absolutely cover literally every track. They just don't get caught because they cover literally everything, and that's honestly kind of scary. That's honestly horrifying. That someone can like plan a perfect abduction or perfect murder, and then just no one knows who did it. Like that's fucked.
In the remote town of Nome, Alaska, a place isolated by hundreds of miles of tundra, accessible mostly by air, people are used to strange things happening. The winters are long and brutal, and the nights seem endless, but even there, among the quiet snow-covered streets and howling wind, the disappearance of Rick Hills in 2004 is something people still whisper about. Not because it was the only one, but because of how it happened and what was left behind. Rick Hills was a 37-year-old electrician, hardworking, quiet, not particularly social, but he was well liked by the people who knew him. He lived alone in a small cabin on the outskirts of town, near the edge of the wilderness. It was not unusual in Nome to be that isolated. Many people preferred it, but Rick's case became more disturbing when it was discovered he wasn't the first one to go missing from that area. In fact, in the 10 years before he vanished, over 20 people had disappeared from Nome under similarly strange circumstances.
20?
The FBI would eventually investigate it as a pattern, but Rick's story was different, more personal and terrifying. On November 13, 2004, Rick failed to show up for work. His boss called him repeatedly, to no avail. That evening, a co-worker drove to Rick's cabin. His truck was there and the lights were off. It had snowed lightly that afternoon, but when they got closer, they noticed something strange.
I don't like seeing all the snow because right now it's like 30 degrees outside, but just like, I don't know, 90, 95 Fahrenheit, and I'm just like loving it. So I do not want to see this right now. I really don't.
No footprints in or out of the cabin. It was like Rick had never left or returned. The co-worker knocked, but there was no response, so we walked around the property and saw that the back door was open. He called out and stepped inside. The place was undisturbed. The coffee pot was full and his cell phone was on the table, but there was no sign of Rick himself.
What?
The weirdest part was the bed was made, not like someone had just gotten out of it. The weird part was that the bed was made so neatly, it looked as though no one had ever been in it. The co-worker called the police, and they searched the home. Then they searched the surrounding area, and then the woods. They brought dogs, drones, helicopters, and still found nothing. Even with the light snowfall, there should have been some sign of direction, like a trail or blood or something, but there was no trace. The man walked out of his cabin with no coat, no boots, no keys, and simply just disappeared.
Imagine walking barefoot in the snow. No, no, thank you.
The investigation didn't find foul play. He reportedly had no enemies or debts. Even his bank account was untouched, and his phone had not pinged a tower since the day before. But then, 2 days later, something happened that the public wasn't told about until years later. A hiker about 30 miles north of Nome found something bizarre. A man's sock frozen into the mud of a game trail. Nearby, hidden under a thin layer of snow, was an old Polaroid photograph. It was dirty and crumpled, and its image nearly destroyed by the cold, but the outline was clear. It was Rick's cabin, shot from the woods. The angle showed the living room window, and in the reflection was a face, but it wasn't Rick's. The photo was turned over to the police, but they never released it to the public. Years later, an officer who worked the case anonymously told the local journalist that it was the most disturbing thing he'd ever seen in his career, that the face in the reflection didn't look entirely human. He described it as off, like distorted, pale, the eyes too wide, and the mouth slightly open, as if it had been caught mid-whisper, like someone caught staring who didn't expect to be seen, as he described it. The area was searched again, but nothing was found, and no further signs of Rick. Locals started calling it the Watcher, saying something in the woods had been taking people. The disappearances dated back decades. Natives had legends about the Dark Man, a thing that lived between the trees and came out at night. When the FBI eventually got involved, they said the disappearances were likely due to weather, accidents, and alcohol. But not Rick. People close to the case knew better. They knew it wasn't weather and it wasn't a misadventure. Rick was used to those woods. He wouldn't have wandered out barefoot without a jacket in sub-zero temperatures. He would not have left his door open, and he wouldn't have vanished without a single track in the snow. To this day, Rick Hills has never been found. Some say it was just a tragic accident. Others say Rick saw something he shouldn't have. Something that was watching him.
Yeah, but like at the same time, you can't just disappear like that. Like there has to be something that like happened. Like you can't just vanish, like without any like reason or like without any like trace in a sense. I'll read a few comments and then I gotta go. The Dunbar one is extremely sad. A kid was never found. An innocent guy spent time in jail. Actual child's mother lost custody and got ridiculed by everyone as a liar. Yeah, that's honestly so fucked up. I feel so bad for Julia. Not only was she labeled a liar by everyone, she had to go without her son and die without any injustice. Honestly, yeah, like some cases are like literally like, it's so weird how people literally just disappear like that. Yeah, it's so weird how people just disappear like that, to be honest. Like, I can just imagine like going to work one day, like I hung out with my friend all day yesterday at like 1:30 a.m. until 10:30 p.m. And like literally I can't imagine just like vanishing and disappearing, or like him vanishing and disappearing. Like me supposed to drive home and then I just never message him back saying, oh, I'm home now. Like it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, and it's horrifying because it can happen to basically anybody. And because people don't shut the fuck up, I'm gonna end this video now. It's driving me nuts. I can't even focus on the video. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Be sure to comment down below which one you think is the most disturbing. I think the Dunbar one was the most disturbing though, because like that was like literally everything went wrong in that one, I feel like. And as I'll see you guys later, deuces, peace.